mate, can we jump into the Fast Five and let's have a little bit more of a look into Beenleigh?
For sure. So from Beenleigh, the median price is between that sort of 530 to 535, depending on which data source. So finally, three data sources actually, coming into like a within 10K variance.
Excellent.
We've got good growth over the last 12 months, which has been surprising considering, Brisbane's sort of trend. Brisbane did slow down and calm down over 2022 and parts of 23. But Beenleigh has actually had, depending on which source you take, between 9 and 14% capital growth. However, being suburb data, always have to be mindful of investigating certain growth figures a bit more. Rental vacancy wise, it has been trending up a little bit, but still very low numbers. So it started at sort of 0.3, 0.4% over the last 12 months, which is very low. It's now just crossed that 1% vacancy rate. So it's a trend we don't like seeing going on the way up. However, from an actual how low it is, it's still very low in terms of rental vacancy overall.
Are you seeing that a little bit across the board as well? Like this isn't the area in isolation, or is this more of an isolated factor?
Look, it's not a massive thing across the board. There are some areas where pressure's released a little bit, but there are many parts, like for example, we're in the studio here in Adelaide, and that's been a big reduction in vacancy rates that sustained itself. It hasn't really popped up in huge parts of Adelaide massively, and it's still quite low.
Yeah, okay. All right, and as far as days on market's concerned, what are we looking at?
Yeah, look, days on market, depending on the source, sort of ranges from 40 to 60 days, which is quite wide in that statistic. However, things are still selling pretty quickly, and you can just see from the growth perspective, the days on market, it's still selling pretty fast. Housing inventory also stays low. Vacancy rates are still pretty low. I think from a surprising point of a suburb, it's also been one in the Logan region where the southern parts of Brisbane have actually had some pretty good growth over the last 12 months, as has the western parts in Ipswich. I'd say what's been a surprise has been those two areas for many locals in Brisbane that thought, I think, hey, the affordability has played a key part as interest rates have sort of gone up, and these two markets have done pretty well in the west and the south.
Okay, and just for anyone that's like never been to Brizzy before, has no idea, how many Ks roughly are we talking from town? Like where are we looking roughly?
Yeah, I'd say the best way to look at it is grab Brisbane, grab Gold Coast and just throw a dart in the middle, and it kind of hangs around there, which is where Beenleigh is. And look, I could be saying it wrong. It could be Beenleigh, could be Beenleigh. Could someone tell us, okay? But definitely...
I'm pretty sure it'll be in the comments section.
Yeah. And so I think from an affordability and where it's placed, those two things have helped it in recent times.
Okay, and as far as infrastructure, local economic factors, what are we looking at?
Yeah, there's lots of things happening in that further south part of Brizzy, especially in the Logan area. And in Brisbane overall, there's been a lot of healthy infrastructure. What I would say more so is that in this part of Brisbane and just Brisbane overall, we've had a really good run over the last 5 years. Beenleigh did not slow down over the last 12 months. It did kind of keep on keeping on. That's been positive. But when you look at data, one thing that's been quite important to note is that you need to play markets like this as a portfolio diversifying, or as a, hey, I'm trying to get my foundation set in some major cities, not like this is the best location to see capital growth over the next 3 years. And I think that's one thing where you notice markets that have outperformed over the last 5 years, they cannot keeping on forever. They will return back to averages. However, for now, Beenleigh has not slowed down. It's still doing quite well. And I would expect that to continue over the next 12 to 24 months. However, the rate of growth will deteriorate each quarter, in my opinion, based on just some of the factors we're looking at.
Now, as far as Nick's concerned, around that kind of 500K mark, he's looking at getting in basically around the median house price. Is there anything that you'd want to comment to that price point?
Yeah, I'd say, look, I mean, it's probably easier said than done in terms of buying that price point there. I would say you might be even stretching from 5 to 600 or even 5 to 625, just because, when you do look at those price points that are sub 500 in many parts of Brisbane, it's becoming rarer and rarer. And when it is happening sub 500, you have to be mindful of something compromised on the property. Like, could it be the main road? Could it be the flood impacts that particular house instead of others where it doesn't? So just be mindful of that as you search for properties, even in affordable suburbs like that.
Okay. So overall then, for Nick, is it a no or is it a go for Beenleigh?
Hey, look, it's still a go for me right now.
We've got to go.
Yeah, we've got to go. It's still a go for me. The suburb is still looking pretty decent in terms of its trends. However, the main thing I'd say is that, is it, again, the best in the nation amongst the top markets in sub 500K? It's a no on that aspect, and I got to just keep it real there.
Okay, I got excited for a second. So it's actually a no. It's not really a go.
I think this is the thing, right? With location no's and yeses, it is a yes in terms of isolated metrics the suburb is showing, but it's like a no in terms of, hey, if you gave me the 500K, where would I go? And I think when we look at that, that's the biggest thing people have to look at, is that in isolation, these suburb data points are a yes. And if Nick is starting the journey and wants a bit of comfort in certain cities, it's still a yes. And if Nick is looking at markets because he doesn't have something in Brisbane, he wants to get something there and diversify his portfolio, then it's still a yes. However, if Nick was the first time investor given 500K and had multiple markets to choose from, then I just still think it's not the no. It's not the yes that I've been giving so far. It would be a no.
You know the question that Nick is probably yelling at the phone right now, but unfortunately can't ask. And I know we can't drill down into areas because we obviously don't know Nick's situation. But is there an overview, some kind of an LGA or something where you go, okay, maybe Nick, just have a look at this area instead?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, and I don't mind giving it away. I think at 500K and below, I would consider the Rockhampton market as one area.
Okay.
I would consider Townsville as another area. And before someone throws a dart at me going, oh, but insurances and things like that, look, use due diligence, get out of flooded pockets that are there, meet locals, speak to locals, and get insurance. And if you get insurance, the rents are still very high. The yields are high. Like I've got a property in Townsville, and the rental yields there, I think, I'd say $450, $460 rent for a 412K property. And when you remove $50 in variance, and I use this rule of $50 or $40, what it means is heightened insurance rates and property management equate to about a $50 differential in rents. And so if you remove that $50 from a $460 rent per week,
yield's still good.
Yield's still good. It's still a $410 per week rental, and it's still at $412 purchase price. So I would say that if you look at those two LGAs with the same 500K spend, my thoughts are over the next 3 to 5 years that will perform better.
Nick, I hope that has answered your question, mate. As always, Arjun Paliwal from InvestorKit. Thanks again for jumping on the show.
Thank you, my friend.
I really thought we had a go that time. It's like that was feeling excited. I feel like we've been saying no a little bit lately. But Nick, I hope that's answered your question there, mate. But guys, I think this one's already gone a little bit over time, so we're going to cut it there. My name is Todd Sloan. This is the Pizza and Property Podcast, weekly slice edition. And as always, have yourself an amazing rest of the week. Stay awesome.